Wrinkle in Time by Madeleine L'Engle. I totally said that wrong. I apologize. An Appreciation by Anna Quindlen. The most memorable books from our childhoods are those that make us feel less alone, convince us that our own foibles and quirks are both as individual as a fingerprint and as universal as an open hand. That's why I still have the copy of A Wrinkle in Time that was given to me when I was 12 years old. It long ago lost its dust jacket. The fabric binding is loose and water-stained, and the soft and loopy signature on its inside cover bears little resemblance to the way I signed my name today. The girl who first owned it has grown up and changed, but the book she loved, though battered, is still magical. Its heroine is someone who feels very much alone indeed. Meg Murray has braces, glasses, and flyaway hair. She can't seem to get anything right at school, where everyone thinks she is strange and stupid, and she runs up against some real nastiness at a young age, in the form of all the snide looks and comments about her father, a scientist, who seems to have mysteriously vanished, or, town gossip has it, run off with another woman. But Meg doesn't know real evil until she sets out on a journey to find her father and bring him home, along with her little brother, Charles Wallace, and a boy named Calvin. As they transcend time, space, and the limitations of their own minds, they get help from individuals of great goodness. Mrs. Whatsit, Mrs. Witch, Mrs. Who, and the happy medium, an odd beast. But the climax of their journey is a showdown with IT, the cold and calculating disembodied intelligence that casts a black shadow over the universe in its quest to make everyone behave and believe the same. If that sounds like science fiction, it's because that's one way to describe the story. Perhaps you could call it the fiction of science. The action of the book, the search for Meg and Charles Wallace's missing father, relies on something called a tesseract, which is a way to travel through time and space using a fifth dimension. Although there's even a little illustration to make it easier to visualize, I still am not certain I do. Of course, Meg, who is so bright she can do square roots in her head, doesn't entirely understand it either. For just a moment I got it, she says. I can't possibly explain it for now, but for a second I saw it. The truth is, I'm not a fan of science fiction, and my math and physics gene has always been weak. But there's plenty in the book for those of us who predispose towards the humanities as well. Mrs. Who remedies her language deficit by using the words of others to explain herself, quotes Dante, Euripides, and Cervantes, to name a few. When Meg is trying to keep IT from invading her brain, she realizes the multiplication tables are too rote to do the trick, and instead shouts out the opening of the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. IT retorts that that's the point. Everybody exactly alike. Meg replies triumphantly, no, like and equal are not the same thing at all. Madeleine L'Engle published Wrinkle in 1962. After it was rejected by dozens of publishers, and her description of the tyranny of the conformity clearly reflects that time. The identical houses outside which identical children bounce balls and jump ropes in mindless unison evoke the fear so many Americans have of communist regimes that enshrine the interests of state-mandated order over the rights of the individual. Why do you think we have wars at home? Charles Wallace asks his sister, channeling the mind of IT. Why do you think people get confused and unhappy? Because they all live their own separate individual lives. He tells Meg what she already knows from her own everyday battles. Differences create problems. But while L'Engle's story may have originally been inspired by the gray sameness of those communist countries, it still feels completely contemporary today. Except for maybe Meg's desire to get a typewriter to get around for her dreadful penmanship. The Murray home is fractured by Mr. Murray's mysterious absence, and Meg's mother slowly sleeping alone in the great double bed. Calvin may look like a golden boy, but his family barely notices he's alive. Even more timeless is the sense Meg has of herself, someone who doesn't fit in, who does everything wrong. Conformity knows no time or place. It is a struggle all of us face, to be ourselves despite the overwhelming pressure to be like everyone else. Perhaps one of the most compelling and moving descriptions of that internal battle comes near the end of the book, when Mrs. Whatsit tells the children that life, with its rules, its obligations, and its freedoms, is like a sonnet. You're given the form, but you have to write the sonnet yourself. What you say is completely up to you. On its surface, this book is about 3 children who fight an evil force threatening their planet, but it is really about a more primal battle all human beings face, to respect, defend, and love themselves. When Meg pulls the ultimate weapon from her emotional arsenal, to fight her little brother in for good, it is a great moment, not just for her, but for every reader who has ever felt overlooked, confused, alone. It has been more than 4 decades since I first read A Wrinkle in Time. If I could Tesser, perhaps in some different time and place, I would find a Meg Murray just my age, a grown woman with an astonishing brain, a good heart, and a unique perspective on how our differences are what make life worth living. Oh, how I would like to meet her.